Welcome to the Zombie Story Zone. Today, we dive into a bone-chilling adventure where horror meets reality in Haunted House of the Dead. What begins as an innocent visit to a haunted house attraction spirals into a terrifying nightmare. Guests seeking thrills are suddenly thrust into a fight for their lives when the fake zombies turn out to be horrifyingly real. In this thrilling tale, every scream echoes danger, and survival becomes the ultimate game. Will our group of visitors escape the haunted corridors, or will they become part of the undead horde? Buckle up for a pulse-pounding journey filled with suspense, dread, and shocking twists. Hit that like button and subscribe if you crave more spine-tingling tales from the Zombie Story Zone.
The neon lights of the Fright Factory blinked erratically as people lined up outside, excited to be scared out of their wits. It was October, and the haunted house attraction was the talk of the town. Known for its realistic sets and terrifying actors, people drove for miles around for a taste of its thrills. Among them was a group of friends: Jason, Emily, Marcus, and Lisa, all ready for a night of fun, completely unaware of the nightmare that awaited them. "This place better live up to the hype," Jason said with a grin, looking up at the rusted, ominous gates. The building beyond them loomed, its windows dark and foreboding, the perfect setting for a horror experience. "You're going to scream like a baby. Just wait," Emily teased, nudging him. Her excitement was infectious, and even Marcus, who usually avoided anything horror-related, couldn't help but smile. "Let's just get this over with," Lisa muttered, wrapping her jacket tighter around herself. "I'm here because you promised pizza after." They were ushered inside after a quick warning from the ticket taker, a man whose pale skin and sunken eyes were unsettlingly realistic. "Once you enter, there's no turning back," he said in a low, gravelly voice. "Enjoy your stay while you can." Inside, the atmosphere shifted. The walls were lined with cobwebs, and the flickering lights barely illuminated the path ahead. The smell of dampness and decay clung to the air, enhancing the eerie setting. The group exchanged nervous glances as they walked through the first hallway, where the walls seemed to close in. "This place is awesome," Jason whispered, his eyes scanning the dimly lit room ahead. They really went all out. Suddenly, a door creaked open, and a figure stumbled out. Dressed as a decaying zombie, the actor let out a guttural moan, dragging his feet as he approached them. "Stay back," Marcus shouted with a laugh, pushing the zombie actor aside as they moved deeper into the house. But as they continued, something felt off. The usual fun of a haunted house, the jump scares and fake blood, was replaced by an unsettling sense of dread. The actors were too convincing, their movements more erratic, their eyes filled with something that wasn't quite human. When they reached the next room, it was filled with mannequins. At least, that's what they thought. The lights flickered again, and one of the figures moved, slowly turning its head to look at them. "Okay, that's creepy," Lisa said, her voice shaky. The mannequin, now clearly a human, let out a low growl. Its skin was peeling, revealing the muscle and bone underneath. But unlike the other actors they had encountered, this one's wounds looked too real. "Is this part of the show?" Emily asked, her eyes wide with fear. Before anyone could answer, the figure lunged at them, its teeth gnashing wildly. Jason swung his arm out in defense, knocking the thing to the ground. But as soon as it hit the floor, it scrambled back to its feet, its hunger evident in its dead eyes. "Run!" Marcus screamed, his voice cracking with panic. They bolted through the next door, slamming it shut behind them. Their hearts raced as they tried to catch their breath. "What the hell was that?" Jason panted, his face pale. "I don't think that was an actor," Emily whispered, her hands trembling. Marcus looked around the room they had escaped into. It was filled with old medical equipment, the walls stained with what looked like dried blood. "We have to get out of here." "Let's just find the exit," Lisa said, her voice tight with fear. "This has to be part of the act, right? It's just an insane level of realism." But deep down, none of them believed that anymore. They moved cautiously through the next set of hallways, their senses heightened. The sound of groaning grew louder as more figures began appearing from the shadows, each one more grotesque than the last. The group pushed forward, desperately trying to navigate the maze-like structure of the haunted house. Suddenly, they reached a large room, its walls lined with mirrors. In the center stood a figure in a black cloak, holding something in its hands. "Welcome to the heart of the attraction," the figure said, its voice deep and menacing. It lifted its hood, revealing a pale, scarred face. "You're about to become part of something far greater than any of you could imagine." Before they could react, the figure pulled a lever, and the floor beneath them gave way. They fell into darkness. When Jason opened his eyes, he was lying on cold, hard concrete. A distant dripping echoed in the room. His body ached and his head spun. But the worst part was the smell, rotten, like death was all around him. The others were scattered nearby, groaning as they slowly regained consciousness. Where are we?" Emily asked, her voice weak. Jason looked up, realizing they were in some sort of underground chamber. The walls were damp, covered in a slick layer of something that looked disturbingly like flesh. Torches flickered on the walls, casting shadows that danced and writhed. "We need to move," Marcus said, helping Lisa to her feet. "This place isn't right." As they limped forward, the sound of footsteps echoed in the darkness behind them. "They're coming," Lisa whispered, her eyes wide with terror. "Who?" Jason asked, but he already knew the answer. Shambling out of the darkness came a horde of figures. Their eyes were vacant, their skin rotting, and their jaws hung open in hunger. These were not actors, not some elaborate special effects. They were real. "They're zombies," Emily said, her voice filled with disbelief. "Real zombies." "Run," Jason yelled, pulling Emily with him. The group sprinted down the twisting hallways of the underground labyrinth, their only hope to stay ahead of the growing horde. But the deeper they went, the worse it became. Rooms filled with decayed corpses, broken bones littered the floors, and the air grew thick with the scent of death. At one point, they came across a large metal door. Jason yanked it open, and they rushed inside, slamming it shut just as the first of the zombies reached them. They were safe, for now. Inside, they found themselves in what looked like an old laboratory. Jars filled with strange, preserved organs lined the shelves, and papers were scattered across the desks. At the center of the room was a large cage, and inside it was something, or someone moving. Jason crept closer to the cage, his breath catching in his throat when he saw what was inside. It was a man, but barely. His skin was pale and peeling, his body thin and frail. He looked up at Jason with wild, bloodshot eyes. "Help me," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Before Jason could react, Marcus called out, "We found something." They gathered around a table where a set of documents lay. The papers described a series of experiments meant to bring the dead back to life. The haunted house wasn't just an attraction. It was a front for something much darker, something twisted. "They've been making zombies," Lisa said, her voice hollow with shock. Suddenly, the door rattled as the horde outside began to pound on it. Their time was running out. "There has to be another way out," Marcus said, frantically searching the room. Emily pointed to a ventilation shaft near the ceiling. "We can use that." One by one, they climbed into the vent, crawling through the narrow space as the pounding on the door grew louder. Jason was the last one in, pulling the grate shut behind him just as the zombies broke through. The vent led them to another part of the underground complex, but it wasn't safe for long. They could hear the groans of more zombies echoing through the tunnels. With no clear way out, they could only keep moving forward, deeper into the nightmare. Finally, they emerged into a large chamber. In the center was a massive door, rusted but intact. Above it, a sign read, "Exit." They rushed toward it, but just as they were about to open the door, the figure from before, the one in the cloak, appeared again, blocking their path. "You've made it this far," the figure said, "but no one leaves the Fright Factory." Jason looked at the figure, then back at the door. His muscles tensed as he prepared for a final fight. The others stood behind him, ready for whatever came next. The only way out was through.